Hello, my name is Vides, and today I am going to talk about the history of approaches and methods. We are going to see a little timeline that I got prepared for you. And with nothing more to say, let's begin with the video. So the first question is, how did methods and approaches originate? And as any other science, the learning and teaching science is always on its way of evolving and trying to be better. And educationists are always worried about this topic. How can they improve the teaching and learning process? So sometimes a teacher might disagree or might be a little doubtful about an approach or a method, and they end up coming up with new ideas, and these ideas end up becoming a new method or a new approach. In the second part of this video, we are going to talk about what are the approaches and methods in language teaching. This is where we are going to see a little timeline that I prepared. So let's begin. The first approach that I have is the ESA approach. And this approach originated in 1947. E stands for engage, which means that a student can properly learn if this student is not engaged and it's not interested in learning a new language. S stands for study, and A stands for activate. This is where the student is going to use and is going to reproduce what they just learned in the S, which is the study process. The second approach is the PPP procedure. So this approach originated in the 60s, and the PPP stands for the three stages that this procedure has. And the first P is presentation, which means the part where the teacher is going to give a little context on what the students are going to study that day, what they are going to learn, and prepare them and present them the topic. After that, we have the second P, which means practice. This means that after learning about the topic, the students are going to practice along with the teacher. And lastly, we have the production, which means that now the students can practice by themselves, making new sentences by themselves. Now we have that in the 70s, a new approach originated, which is the COT, which pioneer is David Wilkins. And this approach is based on the thought and the belief that communication skills are more important than language skills. So this approach believes that a student must interact with other students and should practice in order for them to have functional and effective communication outside in the real world. Then in the 70s too, we have the humanistic methods. This is a group of methods that believe that the student is not only their brain or their mind, but instead of that, the student has to involve with their feelings, their emotions, and their whole being. And the student has to be actually engaged in order for them to learn a new language. Some examples of these kind of methods are the natural approach, the silent way, the community language learning, and the total physical response. In the 80s originated what we know as the task-based learning, and this approach believes that the student has to get involved in their learning process by doing different meaningful tasks in order for them to learn properly. As simple as it seems, it is not. This kind of approach, it's divided in three stages. And the first stage is the pre-task stage. And in this case, the teacher is going to explain to them and give a little context about the topic and what the task is about. After that, we have the cycle stage where the student is going to actually do the task. And after doing the task, he or she is going to present it to the teacher. And after that, we have the language focus, where the teacher and the students are going to talk and are going to analyze what they just did, what they read, and what they heard. And after that, they are going to give their opinions, or the teacher is going to give a little bit of offline correction. So then we have the content and language integrated learning, and this originated in the 80s too. And this is an approach that believes that the student have to strongly get involved in their learning process in order for them to properly learn a new language. While learning new knowledge, while learning new topics, and while learning new skills that are going to be useful for them to speak and understand the new language properly, and acquiring the problem-solving skill. Then we have the content-based instruction, the CBI, originated in the middle 80s. And this is an approach that is based on the belief that the students should learn new content, and by this way, they are going to learn the new target language. So they are mostly focused on teaching new content, like new subjects like science, history, instead of focusing on learning that language. And at the same time, they are going to learn it because they are learning about new topics in that language. And lastly, we have the whole language approach, originated in the 90s. And this is an approach that grabs all four skills that are necessary in order for a student to learn a new language. And the lessons are divided in these four skills. And it also believes that the lessons should be focused on real-life communications as its base. The last part of this video is what is the importance of the approaches and methods in the ESL teaching, and which are the most used. And answering the first part, a method or an approach is very important because it sets the path you are going to take on your lessons, and it is going to set the theories and the beliefs. So I think that it is very important to analyze first what your goals are, what are the goals of your students, and choose the best method or approach that is going to help you achieve those goals, and it's going to define the effectiveness of your lessons. And the second part is what are the most used methods and approaches nowadays? And I think that the first approach or procedure that is very common is the PPP, because I have seen that a lot of English courses have this procedure, and they teach in this way, where there's a wrap up, then there's a presentation, there is the practice, and lastly, the production and the wrap up. So I think that this is a very common procedure here in El Salvador. And I think that other approach that is very common is the COT, where we are not allowed to speak our mother language, but instead we have to speak the target language. We have to interact with other students, and the main focus of these kind of classes are the interaction for the future, and so you can communicate properly with other people in real life situations. And lastly, we have the task-based learning. I think that this is a kind of first approach that is mixed up with other approaches of methods. And I think that is very common too, that the teacher or the courses that that we have in El Salvador are very task-based, where the student has to do a lot of tasks in order for them to learn the new language. So this was everything for today. Thank you for your time and your attention. I hope that this video was useful for you. And thank you again for your time. And see you in another video.